Good morning, Southwest Florida, and welcome to the American Tradesman Show with my guest, Brian Prevett from Prevett Plumbing, Gerald Prevett from B&K, and Juan Silva from American Electrical. Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
It is a Saturday, Brian, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Early, too, isn't it?
Earlier than early.
I'm starting to see your eyes close a little bit. You awake?
Well, I'm just
Taking a
resting.
nap?
I'm just resting my
Resting
eyes.
your eyes.
Resting
All
my
right.
eyes.
Easter's coming up. We talked about Cadbury's
Oh,
last
yeah.
week.
Oh, yeah.
I know you're excited about Easter.
Yeah.
Gerald, how about you? Did you have a good week this week? You ready
yeah,
to go?
man.
All right. Well, Juan, we missed you last week.
Yes, you did.
We did have a little story about you, but we did miss you.
Hopefully, you didn't listen to the radio show and hear the story.
Oh, boy. It was a short story about a long guy. How about
Oh,
that?
there we go.
Or a long guy about a short story, right? Brian, you awake now, Brian?
That woke me up.
Well, last week we talked about mold, Gerald, right?
We did.
We talked a lot about mold and how it really kind of makes its own way around the house, doesn't it, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
It kind of puts itself right in its own place by itself and makes a mess, right, Gerald?
That's right.
So this week we're going to talk to Juan. He wanted to talk a little bit about electrical panels because that's probably some of the things we talk about all the time is
Yeah.
electrical panels.
Electrical panels and electrical wiring.
You know what they say, you don't spark me.
Yeah. The last thing you want to do is get sparked out.
Well, let's hear about it. Juan, talk to me about the panels. What you want to talk about?
Well, kind of first thing before I jump into panels, I want to kind of say, just want to say a thank you to our listeners. I have been approached by a couple people that do listen to the show and just was, great in letting us know that, we're very informative. And, I just want to say that's why we're here. We're here to let you know what we run into as contractors here in Florida and to educate you guys on, areas and things that you should know and help you out.
This is a very true statement. You weren't talking to your kids, were you?
No.
I just want to make sure. He says a couple people, I was getting nervous, Brian. What about you? Brian was like, well, I talked to my mom and dad about it. But that's good. That's a kind of a good thing. We want that. I mean, even today, my own self. Today, I'm going to a service call, and I'm going to go look at it, Brian. It's about mold and water inside, intrusion from the shower, and something to do with, some of the things that people out there are listening to and hearing us. And hopefully you can give us an email, I mean, we appreciate any kind of conversation with all you guys. So, Juan, why don't you?
So I wanted to touch base on electrical panels, and I'm not trying to, beat a dead horse here, but just this past week, I've got 3 different calls in just electrical panels themselves on replacements, and I don't know if it's renewal season for home insurance or what, but that was the case in 3 different calls in 1 week due to Challenger panels.
Challenger.
Yeah, Challenger is the manufacturer of the electrical panel, and it's no secret to us here, electricians, that Challenger panels do have aluminum bus bars, and they tend to fail, where the bus bar and the breaker meet, initially causing fires.
Yeah, I gotta say the aluminum bus bars to us. I mean, we're really square D people, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But the aluminum bus bars do create problems. I mean, over the years, I can only have been Zinsco and some of the other.
Federal Pacific.
I mean, some of the older panels, we know that those bus bars were always going bad. Not to say it, they didn't even have a trip mechanism, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the issue too with the Challenger. What they're finding is that over time, the trip mechanism, like you said, it's not functioning correctly in the breaker. So what ends up happening, it gets locked on. So if there is a short or fault, the breaker never trips, and you have that overcurrent being drawn on that bus bar.
Yeah, I can only say from a standpoint from Christmas lights, a lot of times they just stay on.
Just stay on.
Not to say now the Christmas lights are still 120 volts with their LED, but they do keep the problems up on these panels. And as well as I do, AC heats have been turned on for the last couple months.
Yeah, and just to get the scientific portion of it is that, with aluminum, it expands and contracts with a lot of metals. Once they heat up to a certain point, they expand, and then when they cool down, they contract. Well, since aluminum is a softer metal, it does that a lot more rapid, due to heat. So when you do have a high current on that bus bar where the breaker meets, and with a high load on it, well, that just happens a lot. Eventually, that just wears out.
Yeah, I can only say during my own times out there in the field, a lot of times I can say that we just had this conversation with Gerald, but breakers start to heat up, and then they start to burn on the backside, and first thing you know, the breakers go bad, right,
Yeah,
Joe?
I mean that's what happened. We went this past week to a callback. The lady said, you guys put the heater in December, and now all of a sudden, I have no hot water. So I go there and I check, check from the electrical connection at the wall all the way to the heater. Everything was good there, and was trying to problem solve it because we didn't have the breaker trip while we were there. While on site though, I decided to flip the breaker off and then back on. And in touching the breaker, trying to flip it and it moving, all of a sudden you hear the snap, crackle, pop of, a bad breaker. And that's when I had to inform the tenant who was, conversing with the homeowner about it, that, this has got a bad breaker and you're going to need an electrician. And then when that happens, hopefully they'll call, Juan and Anthony over there at American Electrical. But, if they don't, then that's, you can't force people. But it ultimately you have to have the breakers changed. I mean, this is you could look and every single breaker was of the same breaker and everything, so you could tell that this was all original to the construction. I mean, these units are at least 25, 30 years old, and for a breaker to sit in a panel that long, and especially hot water heaters, because a lot of your part-time residents, when you guys leave, you shut the water off and you flip the breaker off. And that's a key thing because twice a year you're flipping a breaker off and on, off and on. And like Juan and Anthony constantly talk about with the loosening of the connections, this is something that puts a lot of wear and tear on that. And, a lot of times now we're going to where we put switches on the wall where the connection is for if you're in a condo. But, this is something where you have to bring the electrical company in to take a look at your panel because they can see this kind of wear and prevent you from having something bad happening. Now, luckily it was tripping the breaker, but if it's like Juan says where it goes into lockdown on the on position, this is a potential for a serious house fire.
Yeah, and even touch more on what you were saying is what we find too is that, for example, you're speaking of the 30 amp breaker for the water heater, but the heat travels, and what we have found is sometimes we like to stagger our large breakers. We don't like to stack our 60s, our 30s, and our 50s and our 40s right underneath each other, things that are going to be drawing high current because of transference of heat. We like to stagger them around. So when that happens, you do have transfer of heat. So if you have one breaker that has a loose connection, that's overheating. Now that travels to the second breaker, the third breaker, and so on and so forth. And then also down the bus bar. And eventually it gets so bad where it starts to heat up the thermoplastic that's insulating the bus bar from the metal enclosure. And when that finally gives away, then you have an explosion.
Well, you just kind of touched on it right there. Plastic. I mean, plastic, heat. I mean, a lot of times we find the breakers completely melted in the back, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's where home inspections, right?
Yeah, and that's where home inspections come into play to where, it's something that we offer at American Electrical where we go through, in essence, what we say is tear apart, but we pop out your breakers to look at your bus bars. We look at the terminations in the panel, make sure that everything is tight and snug and making a good connection. Because if you have loose connections when in electrical, basically you're arcing. And when you're arcing, you're sparking. And that's creating the heat.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch base on that home inspection. When they're referring to a home inspection, they're not referring to a home inspector because he is not going to be able to look into detail on your electrical, your plumbing, and your AC. So that's why it's always good not to just rely on a home inspector because he's going to visually look at the exterior of the panel. All your breakers are there. None of them are tripped. They're good. He's not going to look in depth into your panel. He's not going to pull the cover off. Same thing with your plumbing issues. He's going to look, he's going to make sure that nothing is leaking, but he's not going to look in depth to see, well, this may need replacing soon because this may be a hazard to you. Same thing with your AC. He's going to look, it's functioning. There's, nothing I see wrong, but he's not going to look into the in depth of how well your AC unit is actually functioning. It is functioning.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I mean, from a legal standpoint, a home inspector cannot take a panel cover off.
Correct.
At all. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that, you need to be as a consumer or the audience out there is to understand that home inspector, unless he's got an electrical license, right, Juan?
Yeah.
He cannot take that panel cover off. There's nothing he can do with that. And that's part of what he doesn't know about. And that's the part that makes us nervous because somebody like the homeowner would probably see the panel. The guy says, "Oh, I took the cover off. Everything looks good, right?"
Yeah, well, I mean, on our side, that's a risk. And it's always a risk when you take a cover off, and the reason why is because if you walk in a home that's 5 years old, we have nothing to worry about. But once you start walking in homes that are 20 plus years old, you could kind of feel the tension on the cover. And what I mean by that is, if a home is pretty old, chances are that there's been work done on it, and a lot of times it's like spaghetti behind that cover. So we don't know what. The person doesn't know what they're going into once they take that cover off. They don't know if a wire's going to pop loose or something's going to pop out or something's going to spark or explode once the cover's off. There is a risk there, so you just don't want any person to take off a cover.
Well, one of the things you did say about, not to say but 5 years or less, but I can tell you that I've been in developments where they've been only a year old, 2 years old, and the whole development is so fast-paced, right, Brian? You know all about that, right? So the development's so fast-paced that sometimes you guys will forget to tighten the lugs down on all the breakers.
I've run into that.
And not to say it, we're talking about something that was brand new, so it went on for a whole year and then realized half the breakers were burnt up because the guy never tightened them up.
Yeah.
And not to say, but that's common. I mean, I hate to say that because this town is in such high demand of speed and getting them done and selling them and fast. We tend to see that even faster than some of these panels. So I got to say, like I said earlier, one of the things we do install is Square D, right?
Yeah, Square D. We stand behind Square D.
The Square D is probably the best breaker for us, and I mean, it's the most reliable and the best warranty. So I can only say, from a standpoint of Challenger, I do understand the aluminum bus bars because we all know that aluminum, like you said, contracts and expands and contracts, and that does that to the breaker. Gerald just was talking about the water heater. A lot of times we see it with a dryer. I mean, you see a dryer breaker that's a, I mean, because of those loads are on and off for so many times, the load is what really makes it hot on the backside of the breaker.
Yeah, that draw of current. So, what I'm going to say is, give us a call to American Electrical. If you do have a Challenger panel, we'd like to take a look at what you have, give you an inspection. We do offer home inspections, and give us a call at 239-353-4389.
All right. Well, we were talking about the home inspections and panels. I mean, not just only Challenger. Federal Pacific, which is still out there.
Zinsco. I mean, if you see anything that says Zinsco in your home, you need to give us a call right away.
Yeah, Federal Pacific and Zinsco, actually by insurance companies, is kind of outlawed now, right?
Yeah.
So,
and Challenger's right there too.
I think what happens is nowadays these inspectors are now checking all these panels, seeing the different types of panels that are out there, and then when they know that it is not, I mean, part of the, I guess you could say program, but part of what the system is supposed to be now, they'll tell you right then to change the panel out.
Yeah, chances are, if your house was built in the 80s and 90s, that's what you're going to be running into.
There was a lot of aluminum stuff. I always used to say Bonita had a lot of aluminum stuff up there, and I used to go in a house, and the house had branch circuits that were aluminum.
Yeah. And I don't do electrical, but I would assume that every so often, and I don't know what the time period would be, every year or every 2 years, homeowners in general probably should have an electrician come out and check panels just to make sure nothing's loosened.
Yeah.
You don't have plugs getting hot,
Yeah, I got to say, a lot of times people just,
They wait till it happens.
Yeah. If I don't see any problems, it's okay, right?
Bad thing is when that happens, usually it's a fire.
It's
Exactly.
It's like the number 1 and number 2 water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't, unless you see it, it ain't going to be a problem, right, Gerald?
That's right.
And then you got to call. Don't fret.
Call Prevent.
What's that phone number, Gerald?
239-596-5533.
And if you do forget to call, then who do you call?
You call B&K, and then we'll come out there and take care of it. That number's 239-398-9834.
All right. Well, you hear it out there, the audience. It's Prevent Plumbing and B&K, right? Water extraction and mold services. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right.
And my man over here, Juan from American Electrical.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind, guys. If you got the Zinscos, you got the Federal Pacifics, you got the Challengers, even these others, Sylvania, you'll run into those. You'll run into Westinghouse. You'll run into Bryant. All these panels are very similar. So I would say just give us a ring if you have any doubts in the status of your electrical panel. Give us a call at 239-353-4389.
And I also want to touch on that as well. Load distribution in your electrical panels. A lot of people nowadays, they're getting contractors, and it's the contractor that does all the work. He adds new appliances, and that's something you really need to make sure you bring an electrician in for, because updated appliances now, a lot of these modern appliances will draw more amps because of quicker wash times on dishwashers or this, that, or the other. Your microwaves, micro hoods. These things are not designed for that. If you have a contractor who's taking an outlet that was over there by your stove and he's now moving it up on his own and turning it into a vent hood, or else a micro hood, this is not load balancing, and that's why you need to make sure that when you're getting a remodel, you bring in a licensed electrician like American Electrical, because they will know load balancing to make sure that you're not going to get in there, pop on the dishwasher and the micro hood at the same time, and next thing you know, your whole kitchen goes dark and dinner's ruined.
Well, yeah, exactly what you're saying. You hit it right on the nail, because I see this a lot in condos and villas and homes and whatnot, where they did have only a vent hood above the range, and they decided to buy new appliances. They get a microwave hood, and they want to use that same wiring that was there. The issue with that is you had a small little motor for this vent hood that 9 out of 10 times they tied it into the same lighting circuit as the kitchen. So what ends up happening when you put this 12, 13 amp circuit, microwave on there, it's just too much. Your lights start to dim. You start tripping breakers. Now you don't have any lights in your kitchen and your living room, because a lot of times the living rooms are tied together too. So yeah, if you're going to be running into something like that, it's best to give an electrician a call. Give us a call.
Not to say it, but you even said it right there. I mean, a lot of times it is tied to the kitchen circuit lights. A lot of times it's even tied to the receptacles on the countertop.
Yeah.
And not to say the guy puts a coffee pot in, and then he puts the microwave on, and he's always wondering why he's going to move that coffee pot all over the place, right?
And if your lights dim when you cut your micro hood on, if this is done over repeated time, the same thing is happening that we were just referring to about heating up the bus bar, the breaker. Pretty soon you're going to have a total failure in there, because that's a big load. I mean, that's putting the stress all the way down the line, all the way back to the breaker when you're doing that. So, I mean, just because it doesn't trip the breaker does not mean that it's not causing severe damage. So have an electrician like American Electrical come out and take a look at that.
That's right. Well, listen, what's that phone number, Juan?
239-353-4389.
Some people tell us we talk a little bit, Brian, too fast. You hear that? Brian, I don't know about Brian talking fast.
I just listen slower.
Is that like Braille?
You have to train yourself. But
Is it like Braille? Or, I can only say. Let me try American Electrical. 239
353
4389.
4389.
Don't fret. Call Prevette. Gerald?
It's going to be 239-596-5533.
We just want to make sure, audience, you get our numbers out there. They have, what's the website over at American Electrical?
Yeah, you can even visit our website. That's AmericanElectricalService.net.
And Gerald, what's your websites over there?
It's going to be PrevettePlumbing@yahoo.com, or PrevettePlumbing.com is the website. For the B&K, the number is going to be 239-398-9834, and the website is going to be bkwaterandmold.com.
Well, we are coming up upon generator season, too. I wanted to throw that out there. I know I wanted to get over to you, Gerald, but I know we're getting into generator season. Even those lockout kits are being sold now.
Yeah. That's what one of our clients, our listeners actually reached out to us for that, a generator interlock kit, installation. So it was nice speaking with him.
Well, that's good. I mean, again, for the audience, we're only here to give you information, right, Gerald?
That's right.
Other than Brian and his Cadberries, we kind of just, we got to make sure. But we are here for information.
Yep.
Also to teach you what we know from a code standpoint and how we can tell you from a licensing and who's licensed and not licensed, right, Gerald?
That's right.
I can only say I run into a lot of times where the general contractors got guys working for them that does plumbing, electric, and air conditioning, but no licenses under those mechanical sides, right, Juan? Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing that we see. And I'm not knocking every general contractor out there, but if you're getting the job done by a general contractor, make sure you see all the licenses at your home, right, Gerald?
That is 100% true, because I see it all the time. We'll go in, diagnose an issue, and the biggest thing I see is showers in condos. And people say, well, I brought a general contractor in, and they're going to do that. And you very rarely will find a general contractor who's going to have a CFC and an EC license.
Yeah,
So
I find that very hard too.
yeah, so I mean, I don't knock people for their decisions, but sometimes those decisions will come back to haunt you. A GC can't, pull a permit without having a plumber and electrician on that permit.
A sub, right? You had to have a sub card attached to that.
That's correct. And so if you have a GC redoing your shower, you're in a condo, but he's doing all the work, and I see it with cabinet replacements, you got to have a plumber and an electrician on that. So chances are, it's not getting done correctly, or if even if it's correctly, it's not getting done legally, and that's a key thing, because if you have a recent remodel and you decide to do that to sell the unit, and the next thing you know they're asking, well, where's the permit for this, you're stuck, and that's something you really have to realize. Same thing goes with water heaters, panel replacements. If you have a condo and you have a recent panel replacement, but you don't have the permitting and everything for that, I mean, you're stuck. You can't move forward with that at all. AC units, that's just, it's all goes the same. It's permitted work because it's considered commercial property. And if they're going to cut corners and not pull permits, they're going to cut corners in other places.
The domino effect.
Yeah.
Because even if, like in the kitchens, you don't do electrical right. You know what I'm saying? When it's being moved, all those new appliances you bought,
Yeah.
they send someone out to look at it while you're having an issue. They find out electrical wasn't done correctly or permitted. You just voided every warranty.
Well, yeah, you avoid the warranties of the appliances, but a lot of times, just like Gerald said earlier, where you get new appliances, you get them installed, and these new appliances have different electrical requirements. Whether it be a range, if your home was built, in the 90s, and you have aluminum wire going to your range, and it's only 3 wires, where code now requires for you to have 4 wires and equipment ground, no longer using aluminum, it has to be copper. To whether you're doing a convention oven and with a microwave kit, and you only have a 20 amp circuit there, but it requires a 30 or 40. So a lot of this miswiring with new equipment, I mean, it's just it causes disasters.
Yeah, one of the things you said about kitchens, I mean, the range is really got to be a 4-wire now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
4-wire.
code. So a lot of times I'll see that plug is turned into a 4-wire, right? It's a 4-wire plug, but you pull it apart and there's only 3 wires to it.
Well, the problem is when you do that, you're powering up your equipment, but you're damaging your equipment at the same time.
Well, you don't really have a true ground.
You don't have a true ground, but you're putting neutral current. You're putting neutral through your ground on your equipment that actually requires a neutral. So I mean that's just bad all around for the new electronics and appliances.
And just so the audience understands, I mean, FP&L does lose a neutral once in a while, and when that happens, that tells you right there that you could have a problem. Once you've lost a neutral, you become the ground. And somebody walks up and the range is hot, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the reason why you have a 4th wire, which is your equipment ground.
Yeah, it's safety. It's what it's about. I mean, the code's changed a while back for that same reason, for safety.
Safety.
And not to say it, but the code's changed for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes I wonder if they change the codes for a little bit more money for some things, right? But hypothetically, the reality is that most of the time the safety is what it's about. So I can only say, you talked earlier about, I mean, aluminum panels. We're in a mobile home park right now, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of those mobile home parks came in with these newfangled. I mean, these mobile home parks come in with these new mobile homes, and I got to tell you, it's like setting a house right there.
Oh, yeah.
And they got a little 50 amp plug plugged in with a cord. Right?
Yeah. I'm still astonished by that.
I got to tell you, it's scary because, I mean, literally they'll come in with, I mean, these big old new nice motor homes or mobile homes and double wides or whatever they are. And I got to say, they got a cord coming right out plugged into a 50 amp plug.
These are the ones with the block foundations, and they bring them in and set them on top.
Yeah, we're dealing with it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they don't even pay attention. They just start stealing power from the guy next door. And not to say it, but most people don't have the understanding of what we see because we know we're not becoming dramatic guys, but I can tell you, you can't do it. I mean, you can't.
It just causes issues, I mean, you plug into one source and you're pulling a lot of power, and that just trickles down the line, causing issues for other people.
Well, like I said, for the audience out there to listen, we talk about safety a lot of times. We talk about the codes, and And today we're talking about the Challenger panels and Federal Pacific and Zinsco and Westinghouse and a lot of these panels that are ancient nowadays, only because not so much as the breaker itself, but also
Technology in the
what-
bus bar.
Right. What's going to be safe for you as a homeowner, as the end user, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, with progression of codes, it's just learning from your mistakes over time, and that's the reason why the code cycles, that's why we get a new code book, a new set of rules to go by every 3 years, because, we find out what the issues were as the practice was being used at that time. And I'm going to give you a perfect example with what we call bundling. And what bundling is, when you bundle all of the wiring in your home or wherever it may be together, it was a practice back in the day to bundle all your wires and enter them through 1 2-inch hole in your electrical panel. Well, it's over the years, it's been found that when you bundle, it creates a lot of heat and generates a lot of heat, and it degrades the wire, degrades insulation. It creates a hot spot, and eventually it causes failure. And a lot of these panels still have that. They have a choke point of bundling in these panels. So, I mean, it's something that you need to have us take a look at.
Well, they call that an armature, don't they?
Yeah.
That's just what it is, right? You bundle it up like an armature motor.
Yeah.
And then wrap a little copper wire around it.
And that's it.
And there's your armature.
Exactly.
So people don't understand. That's some of the things that when we do open the panel and we see that, we're going to let the homeowner know right then.
Exactly.
And it, not to say it, but when we were 20 years ago doing electrical work, it's obviously going to be different than now, right?
Yeah.
And people, we've learned what causes problems and what doesn't cause problems. And we know that aluminum is part of one of the problems. Even service feeders are aluminum still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Gerald, I wanted to kind of come over to you. I know you wanted to talk a little bit today about a few things, but go ahead on.
Okay, so recently we've had a large influx of inquiries about indoor air quality in homes. To give you a couple of examples, we went to a lady's house. She's renting a condo. The previous tenants of the condo were smokers. So she was trying to rid the smell of cigarette smoke from this unit. We're able to come in. We have machines that will actually help this out, and we have odor blocking agents that we can spray, clean the place, put these machines in place, and after our initial visit and getting everything done, she actually has a unit now that you can't tell a smoker lived in. Same thing, another young lady had a condo she rented. The previous tenants had pets. So these are air quality issues that we can resolve. We have the machines. We have the chemicals that will allow us to actually replace basically your bad smelling unit, food odors, anything like that, with good air. And I mean, it helps to improve the air quality in your home. And that's basically, where you're at most of your downtime when you're not at work. That's the two places most people are the most in their life, and you want your indoor air quality to be healthy, one, and you want it to be odor free. And the machines we use are doing both. So, I mean, not only are they removing these odors that are going to be in the air, also any harmful contaminants that may be in the air, they're going to remove those, replenish the oxygen amount back in the air. So, I mean, you're going to end up with a good indoor air quality. And so, I mean, if these are things that you're interested in hearing about, give us a call over there at B&K, 239-398-9834.
Well, last week we did talk about mold, right, Brian? And that was one of the things, and that's an important part of all of it because we know that the carpet causes even mold, right? And not to say that's where smell comes from, a lot of times, from the carpet. So I can only say it's important for people to understand. I mean, not from the smoking cigarettes to even pets, but I got to tell you, they bring in their own diseases.
That's right. And, as long as, you're not reintroducing the same thing like with cigarettes again or with pets again, it will stay odor free. I mean, this isn't just like a temporary fix. It's a permanent fix. And like I said, any time that you have those kinds of issues, we can come in, do an evaluation, and give you an idea of exactly what it's going to take to fix the indoor air quality of your home and get you back to a better frame of mind. Nobody likes to have especially if you're in a condo that you're renting, the previous tenants' choices, and you have to live with them now. You know what I'm saying? So we can eliminate those and get you back to a better place.
And if your place smells as good as your wife or husband's cooking, he can also get rid of that smell. Right?
That's right.
No cooking fish.
You had to do that the other day, I believe.
Yes, I did.
So let me ask you this question. And one of the things I'm hearing you say, is this an ozone machine that does it or no?
There's several different machines. So it's an ozone machine. It's going to be the air scrubber, just depending on what situation it is.
Patent's pending, Anthony. We really can't comment too in depth.
But yeah, it's what he's referring to. Someone had been
Brian,
cooking.
it's too early, Brian.
Someone had been cooking on the stove and was not paying attention to what they're cooking and burnt a pot slap up. And if anybody knows, that smell does not come out.
Oh, I can only say I got
P.S.
even one.
I still love you, honey.
And it gets
Trying
in
to
your
get back in
clothes.
the house by now.
Yeah, it gets in your clothes, the furniture, and everything. And we did a air cleansing in the home, and you can't even tell it now.
And how long does that process take? I mean, is it a couple
It's
hours?
depending on the severity and depending on each scenario is going to be different. But usually, it can just take a couple of hours to maybe a full day, and it's good.
Let me ask you something. Is that work for like airborne bacteria and stuff? Or,
Correct. We have machines for that.
And what about viruses?
Here it comes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have it for that.
So there you go, people. I think if you're running into situations like that, where you're worried about the quality of your home, I think you should hit up B&K. You know what I mean, and get your air scrubbed, get your air cleaned, and the quality of the air in your home.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, with any kind of viruses, flus, anything like that. I mean, even if you have, not necessarily the flu or anything like that, but if you're having an environment where people are constantly in there, so you have a workplace that, is like that, we can come in, schedule an after hours deal even, and completely rid any kind of airborne bacteria, anything that's in the air, and thoroughly clean the air that's in any building. I mean, that's something we always do, as well as the mold remediation and the water extraction. But, I mean, indoor air quality is important. Those are things that we work with in conjunction with on the mold side. So, I mean, we're very knowledgeable about how to transform your indoor air quality into a better situation.
Now, this is something totally different than them like stage 4 air filters or whatever.
This is
you get
not
at Home Depot or
this
something.
is not an air filter. These
this
are
is-
actual machines that are actually treating the air. So, I mean, we have several different kinds of machines, but it's depending on which application is needed. But yeah, I mean, they transform the air. They some filter out, some change the air quality completely. So, I mean, like I
Wow.
said, they're actually killing microbials and bacteria and viruses that are going to be in the air.
Well, that's an important thing, right, Brian? I mean, think about it. If you're talking about cleaning the air, this is what we're running through right now for the last couple of weeks with this coronavirus. And I got to say, I mean, I think the hype is bigger than what it's supposed to be, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
a little bit crazy
Yeah.
going on, but
But I mean, either way, it's all about cleaning.
Yeah.
Keep cleaning, whether it's air, surface. The cleaner, the less likely.
And the biggest thing that we do this with is when somebody in the family is subjected to the flu and then it's passed from one to the other, your whole house is contaminated. And your biggest fear then is getting recontaminated from your home. And so that's where we get a call. A lot of times is say the wife gets sick and then the kid gets sick and then she passes it to the husband. Even though they're getting better, you'll notice that somebody will feel a little bit laggy. Even though they've gotten over it, they're still getting reintroduced to it again. And that's where we can come in with that scenario, get your whole house back to a stable air environment, and you're not reintroducing everybody back to the flu virus again. So,
I.e., if you have kids in childcare. Oh,
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
yeah,
Yeah.
That'll come back 7 times.
Yeah.
You can't doesn't stop. It's
Send
like a
school in a
rocket.
bubble.
Yeah, I got to tell you that is an important part of. I mean, talking about now the air quality. I mean, that's important. I mean, it is. I mean, most people just take it for granted, but the way things are going right now, I mean, it's been a real big important part of all this.
And
Keeping the air clean.
No matter how well you clean or the areas you can clean with this equipment, it'll get in places that you just can't get to as a homeowner. Or your basic cleaning service.
Well, yeah, I mean, my thought of this is like, okay, a basic homeowner, and I'm going to use me an example. I walk out in cooler weather, and I walk into my home, and it's a little warm, and I'm like, So I open the doors because I want fresh air in. I think a lot of people do that. When it gets cool outside, we start opening windows and doors and let the fresh air come in. But at the same time, you don't know what you're letting in,
That's right. And I mean, so many things are airborne now, and people don't realize you're bringing it in on your clothes. You're getting in contact with things. You're going places during the day. I mean, even though it may not affect your body, these bacteria, germs will, come in on your clothes, your shoes, and you'll actually bring them into your home where they may lay dormant for a while, and then all of a sudden spawn, and next thing you know, you've got a full-fledged illness traveling through your house, and everybody's getting sick. And it may be somebody come in with a different something, and just they reacted together, and next thing you know, you have bacteria in your house that's affecting everybody, and everybody's getting sick. And these are things that we can eliminate. We can help control the indoor air quality of your home. So I mean, odors, bacteria, viruses, anything like that, we can eliminate and give you a better indoor air quality. Some of the machines we do actually help to increase the oxygen in your home. And at the same time, it's also killing any kind of bacteria. And that's going to give you an extremely better indoor air quality. And you won't believe, just by increasing the oxygen in your home, how much you can add to the vitality of your day-to-day life.
So, I mean, with saying that, and I don't know the technology behind it, but I'm kind of assuming is, when you increase the oxygen in your home, it's a lot better for the elderly.
Correct.
Easier for them to breathe, versus something that's a little like stagnant.
Yes, correct. And I mean, anything like that is definitely going to be beneficial for elderly, because, a lot of those are immunal issues with the elderly. The older you get, the less, active your immune system is, and the more susceptible you are to having issues with viruses, bacteria. And that's where, something like this would be very beneficial.
Well, listen, we continue our days on a Saturday every morning to talk to the audience out there about some of the things that we run into on a daily basis, some of the things we don't run into on a daily basis. But if you're looking for somebody to come out there and even give you an inspection, or right, Brian, I mean, you get out there, and Brian Brevet and Gerald Brevet and Juan, they'll come out and give you an inspection on all the things that you guys want. I kind of want to touch base on some of the things that we've talked about before, which was one of the generator lockout kits.
Yeah, I did have a few calls of those for generator lockout kits, and those of you who are not familiar what they are is basically what we do is we mount a generator receptacle. It's an inlet specifically designed for the amperage of the generator. If whether you're going to be a 30 amp or 50 amp, and then it's going to be weather resistant. Then we run a line over to your electrical panel. We install what we call an interlock kit. And what that does is that, by code, we have to install that for the safety of the lineman down the line. And what that means is that you cannot turn on your generator power to the electrical panel unless you turn off your main circuit breaker at the panel. So that way, when a generator runs through, it feeds your electrical panel, it's not back feeding down the line and does any harm to any linemen who are trying to restore power to your home.
Yeah, that's an important thing. I got to tell you, a lot of guys will plug right into the water heater, right, Brian?
Water heater, dishwasher, to the dryer range.
They plug right into the AC system outside. I mean, guys will just say, just don't turn the breaker on, honey. All right? Yeah, next thing you know, the house is burnt down.
Exactly. So, I mean, these interlock kits, they're simple. They're great for the homeowner. If you're on well water, this is going to be a perfect fit for you as well. It's easy to you just turn on your generator, plug it in, pop the main breaker off, turn on your generator power. Of course, depending on the size of your generator, it's going to be dependent on what we can power up. But, when we do the installation, we'll advise you which circuit breakers need to be turned off.
And the lockout kit's not very expensive either. That's the most important part, right?
Yeah, you're not looking
cheaper than a transfer switch.
It's cheaper than a transfer switch. You're not looking at the cost of a full-blown standby generator. Very, very, very economical.
Well, Gerald and I were talking a minute ago, but we wanted to give shout-outs right now, right, Brian? Shout out? I shout out to you, baby. How about you?
Shout out.
Shout out. What you got, Gerald?
Okay, so this week I want to give a shout out to Debbie Mosier International Used Truck Center. located over there on Davis Boulevard. Great place to get commercial vehicles. So any of you contractors out there, vans, box trucks, larger box trucks, semis, I mean, she has it all. She can get it for you. And at great prices. I mean, we've starting to get a couple of them to replace out our fleet. And if you guys are interested in any kind of, like I said, commercial vehicles, you need to give Debbie a call over there. Her number is going to be 954-520-5429.
Well, thank you. You know, we were talking a minute ago. You said American Farms, but I've been working for American Farms for probably almost close to 20 years, maybe even more. And I got to tell you, Jim Pugh over there and Alex, these are great people over there. And you really kind of don't get to see some of the smaller. I mean, he's not small, but I mean smaller people. But I say American Farms, they grow annuals for all over the country, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have a very nice setup.
Yeah, I know during the fire a couple of years ago they really had a problem.
Yeah,
but they're starting to come back again. And I got to tell you, I mean, my heart goes out to those guys when they went through all that, and that fire out in Golden Gate Estates burnt down a lot of their property out there, and it really hurt them. But I got to say, shout out to Alex and Jim Pugh out there. We want to say thank you, Jim, for all your help and service. We love you guys. Brian, you got anything to say for your mom?
I'm good.
I made it, Mom.
I'm still here.
Shoes are tied.
I'll make you famous.
Made you look, Ma. Juan?
Actually, I want to do a shout out. I want to do a shout out to the audience.
Oh,
yeah! Shout out to you guys. Like I said earlier, in the beginning of the show, it's great touching base with you guys. It's great, getting the phone calls, meeting you in person, and just getting your feedback. I really appreciate it, and you guys are great.
Well, listen, if you need to call me or text me or email me, remember AC@theamericantrades.com. That's AC@theamericantrades.com. Email me. I'd love to have an email. I got an email last week, Brian. I was really kind of happy. It's a customer that talked about mold, and they said they had some water leaks, and they've had 2 or 3 other contractors there can't figure out the water leak. So today, I go there. So I'm going to go there. I'll probably be calling you, Brian. I'll be calling you on the hotline, the Batmobile, the Bat line. But, it's important for people out there to know that we're out there. We're trying to help you guys out. And if you have any questions or anything, be more than happy to have you. I mean, Juan says you come out there and give you guys a free inspection sometimes and even give them, some advice on things, right, Juan?
Yes, sir.
And what's that phone number, Juan?
239-353-4389.
And don't fret.
Call Prevette.
What's that phone number, Brian?
239-596-5533.
And over at B&K, what's that phone number?
It's going to be 239-398-9834.
All right. Well, one of the things you wanted to talk about was tankless water heaters. We were out at the mobile home park about a week ago, right, Juan?
Well, yeah, we're out there.
when they were telling us they were going to put tankless water heaters in all the mobile homes. You hear that, Brian? Tankless water. They're trying to save room. So what they said is, well, we seen that little water heater that goes right there in the corner, and I said, well, you got to really look at those things because they're like 12, 15 kW, and some of them are 27 kW. But I got to tell you, those are some, crazy things thinking about, right?
Yeah. We were out there and we're speaking to one of the residents on, upgrading their service. Actually we're talking to the whole park about upgrading services out there. And through the conversation, I mentioned, well, my neighbor wants to install a tankless water heater, and that's when I had to kind of put the brakes on. I was like, yeah, your service is not going to be large enough for that, and I've got the guys to speak to about it here with us, Brian and Gerald, and power consumption wise, it can't happen with smaller services. I was telling Anthony during break, just the other couple of weeks ago, I met with another a client to where they wanted to install a tankless, but they had 125 amp service in their condo, and it's not feasible when you have that small of a service.
Yeah, it is. I know for a fact that it's a scary situation with those tankless water heaters. Some of the homes with 200 amp service, some of those homes, with a bigger service, a single family home, it's not so bad. But, you need 260 amp.
It could be 240, 260s, or even sometimes 440s. It gets crazy in how many elements they are in these tanklesses.
You're talking like number 6 wire, number 8. This stuff's massive.
Yeah, it's not just replacing the breakers. I mean, you also have to have a wire ran from where the existing heater is all the way back to the panel, and sometimes that could be clear across the house.
And sometimes it's 2 times, not just 1 wire.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's 2 wires.
So I mean, sometimes it's not a feasible scenario, to come in with a tankless.
Well, I mean, we talked about this. I mean, using the recirculating pump, right, Brian? I mean, a lot of times is kind of the easier fix to getting water circulated already, right?
Yeah.
Even that, or something that Gerald touched base on a while back with boosters.
The boosters. So we can install a booster right there on the discharge side of your water heater, and basically what it is, if you've got a 30-gallon heater in your condo, we can add this booster to the heater, and it's going to give you 45% more capacity. So I mean, you're basically jumping up almost to a 45-gallon heater, and like I said, these are key things because once the water temperature coming out of your water heater drops below a certain amount, then the booster kicks in. Until then, it remains dormant. It's not drawing any additional power. It doesn't require an additional power source. So it's going to use the existing power that you have for your water heater, and then it's going to feed your water heater. You're not drawing any extra anything. It's got an LED screen that remains dormant until it's in use. Then the power kicks in, but it's not like it's drawing severe power. I mean, it's just a small little unit that goes on top. But, I mean, it's crucial because it adds almost 50% more capacity to your heater.
Yeah, and in electrical standards, and I want to see if I got this correct. So we're using the same circuit as your water heater that's existing. And we feed the booster first, and then the booster feeds the water heater. So in turn, what happens is once it senses that the temperature of the water drops a certain threshold, the booster now takes the power from the water heater and heats up the water.
That is correct.
Then, once that demand is met, then it reverts power back to the water heater as normal function.
That is correct. And that's what I'm saying. It's not using any additional power, but you're not going to heat up that water in the water heater fast enough. So that's where the booster comes in. It's like a little mini tankless, and it is able to heat it up fast enough, but it's taking that power from your water heater. So you're still going to get that hot water, but it's going to be coming from the booster and not your water heater. And that's where, this is, such a great item to have. And a lot of times we have some of the larger condos, penthouses, most of those have 80-gallon heaters. We refer people out to do the 55 with the booster. And the reason being is, I mean, you're significantly changing the amount of water that you're heating. A lot of these places, 2, maybe 3 people, a 55-gallon heater is sufficient. And then when they do have the additional company or the additional water usage, then you have that booster sitting on top that's going to power your extra hot water that you need. And so you're actually getting quite a savings because even with the 55 with the booster, you're still not going to pay as much as you would with an 80-gallon heater. 80-gallon heaters now are no longer considered residential, and they're considered commercial. And so the price on them, because they are considered commercial, is just skyrocketed. And you're getting a way better deal anyway because you're saving electricity by not heating up as much water, and you're paying less for this option.
Plus, the new footprint on the 55 and the booster is a lot smaller than the 80. So you got room to, especially in a condo, you got room to store your vacuum in there, your broom.
Yeah, it doesn't take up all the room. I mean, not to say it, but it also helps when you have a lot of women in your household too, right?
Oh, yeah. As many as you can get.
When you have too many women in your household, it's really good to have that booster, right, Gerald?
It is.
Yeah, I got to say, I mean, when you go all the way down to the tank and there's only one little girl coming out the door, you better have a booster on it. Well, we talk about savings, we talk about safety, we talk about panels, we talk about mold, we talk about everything we can for you guys out there. If you got questions out there, we'd be more than happy to answer them. Give us an email at ac@theamericantrades.com. That's ac@theamericantrades.com. Brian, I want to touch a little bit based on plumbing because, sometimes people call most of the time because they got not enough water in the tank. The water doesn't want to go down. Sometimes the water sits in the toilet. A lot of times it's just really kind of maintenance, right, Joe?
It is. It's basic maintenance, especially for part-time residents. Those are where you find the most issues. Tank to bowl kits are a big thing. This tank to bowl kit that separates the bowl of your toilet from the tank has a rubber gasket, and once that sits idle for 8 months out of the year with no water traveling through it to keep it lubricated, it dries out. especially also the bolts in your tank. They have little rubber washers around them. When that water sits on those bolts for 8 months at a time, then all of a sudden you start recirculating again. A lot of times you'll find that it'll deposit a black substance into the bowl. And what this is that actual rubber washer is breaking down. Over a couple of years' time, now you've noticed that there's a drip on the floor, or a lot of people mistaking it for, well, the water's coming out from around the base of the toilet, when all actuality it's the bolts that run from your tank to bowl, and they're actually leaking out and dripping at the back of your toilet, so it makes it look like it's actually, the water's coming out from under the toilet. These need to be replaced. So, if you know that you've gone 2 to 3 years without doing that, call us in before it becomes an issue, and it may damage you, or worse yet, the unit below you, because the water's going to go somewhere. Call us out to have a look at it, to take an inspection of it. We'll take a look at it if it needs replacing. Same thing with your fill valves. Those have diaphragms in them. When they sit idle for 8 months at a time, and then all of a sudden it changes the pressure in there, a lot of times those diaphragms in there, they go out, and it won't shut off, or worse yet, it'll pump down in the little tube that fills your bowl, but it doesn't fill the tank back up. So now you've got this fill valve that's running 5 minutes trying to fill up a tank, but there's not enough water coming out of it to fill the tank.
I gotta say something here, though. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You know what I mean? With we were talking about the bolts, but I gotta say that when I went over to the house that Anthony built, and I used your restroom, just to let you know.
You too?
So I looked. First thing, I looked at the toilet, and I'm like, hold on, there's no separate tank on that thing. The way it's like designed and molded, and that was just, and it's slim. I mean, that is just like, I was in awe of this thing, and
in awe.
I was.
Brian, did you hear that? He was in awe.
I was in awe of it, because I was like, this is a nice
How many
toilet.
guys get all excited about a toilet now?
Hey, it's a man's throne.
Yeah, it's a one piece, so it doesn't have the separate tank to bowl.
But that's what I liked about it. It didn't have a separate tank to bowl, but also that usually the tanks are huge and cumbersome, and it just looks out of place. I mean, this thing was just narrow and thin. I mean, it was just awesome.
It's called a skirted toilet, and they are good toilets. They're single piece, but they're made for design and fashion.
Yeah. And what's really nice about that is it's also hygiene, because you don't have like
crevices
an exposed yeah, exactly. You can wipe it down real smooth.
That's what I liked about it. I mean, it was just like one big piece that just you can clean. There's not crevices that nooks and crannies that are gonna get dust and dirt and whatnot. I mean, it's just I liked it.
How was the shower? Was the pressure good?
The pressure was really good in the shower.
And when it gets time for you to clean that toilet, when you get done using that bathroom, you just drag the water hose in there and just hose the whole bathroom down.
There you go, and you got a bidet.
He's looking at us like, what?
I thought you guys were pressure washing outside or something. I thought you were doing a paint job outside. What was that all about? I mean, come on, guys. You pressure washing inside? I mean, what kind of cleaning class you guys? You guys are starting to scare me. I mean, well, listen, each week we kind of give a shout out to some of the people out there, and each week we kind of talk about everybody that we can help out on there. But I really want to give a shout out to Brian Prevett and his company. And I've known Brian for a long time, and I got to tell you, man, I love you, Brian.
I appreciate that.
But I want to give a shout out to Brian Prevett and Gerald, his brother. I want to give a shout out to you guys. You guys are a top notch company, right? And you guys show it. You throughout this whole process of these shows. It's been a professional atmosphere for both of us, right? I mean, I gotta say, with my partner Juan, we try to keep it lightheaded, not pressure wash in my bathroom, but we're trying to keep it a little lightheaded, a little bit, keep people on the. At this early in the morning, Brian, we got to make some kind of jokes, right? I mean, if I had Cadbury's every day, we'd be in good shape. But I want to thank you guys for being here. I really do. I really appreciate it. We've been sticking this out like we can, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've been fighting with it, but we've been trying to keep it going. That's what we're trying to do. So some of you subcontractors out there, if you want to be on the radio show, give me a call. I mean, I'd be more than happy. Give me a call over at the office. The phone number at the office is 239-719-1789. That's 239-719-1789. That number 1789 is a lot for me because it used to be my old number back in the day. But 1789, people used to say, why it's 1789? But The Marine Corps was formed in 1789 in Tun Tavern. Did you guys know that?
Did not.
It was a bar. In 1789, that was when it was formed. So I can only say, in Tun Tavern, the Marine Corps was formed in 1789. But I will say, I really kind of appreciate all you guys being here. And, it shows dedication and loyalty to all you guys. So, Brian, thank you, my man. Gerald, thank you.
Thank you.
Juan, thank you. Well, I'd like to close it up a little bit. We only got a couple more minutes here. But, Juan, one of the things that we talked about was generator lockout kits. But I want the audience to understand that we do generators.
Yes, we do standby whole home generators. We can give you. What I like is that we can give you options. To meet any need that you have, whether you want to get something that's small scale, medium, or whole home standby generators, and then we'll ask you what your needs are, as what's important to you as empowering in your home, and then tailor it to you.
Well, now I would say, Juan, is the time to start thinking about it. If your audience thinking about generators, start it now, because I got to tell you, through the permitting process, right?
Well, I'm just going to give you an example. Now's the time to do it with permitting and generators. Just the issue that you're having nowadays to find hand sanitizer and toilet paper, it's going to be the same thing when hurricane season comes through, to try to find a generator, transfer switches, and equipment needed to install them, even to pull the permits. It just gets crazy around that time period. So now is the time to get ahead of the curve, get it running. That way, you're set when the season comes in.
And I wanted to elaborate on that a little bit. So when you're doing a shopping for your generator, there are many companies that do them, but a lot of those companies are generator only companies. And the reason why it's good to go with American Electrical, because they're also an electrical contractor. They're not just a generator sales, a setup. They're going to be able to understand your whole electrical system in your home, to be able to serve you with the generator, not just slap a generator in there and then who knows what's going to get powered correctly. These guys are going to be able to look at your system and be able to tell you exactly what you need as far as a setup for a generator, as far as what needs to be powered during these times of emergency. So always go with a good contractor, electrical contractor like American Electrical, because they are going to know your home's electrical system, not just generators.
Yeah. Plus, we always recommend buying 2-ply toilet paper, like you were mentioning, because you can always pull it apart and double your inventory. Solves problems.
Don't fret.
Call
Prevent. Well, listen, we're going to close up the show, fellas. I got to tell you, some days are different than others, right, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
Well, listen, man, I want to thank the audience for listening, and have a great weekend, and God bless America, and Semper Vi.
Hoorah!